In this video, I want to help you to distinguish your intuition from fear or various conditioned patterns. Growing up, we are conditioned by society, culture, basically the environment that we're growing up in all sorts of ways. Beliefs, behavioral patterns, emotions. We get triggered by things, we get wounded. And all of that stuff is very different from your intuition. Your intuition arises spontaneously and in a very natural and organic way, not a forced way, due to you being present within yourself, connected to yourself, and a feeling of groundedness and stability in the present moment. Right? All of your conditioning is wired into you, usually on levels that you're completely unaware of, right? Like 95% of it. Kind of like how a fish in water is, you're kind of like a fish in water, basically. Your conditioning is just like all everywhere. So the first way that I want to really begin to help you to distinguish your intuition from all your conditioning is by giving you a good list of various contrasting experiences and showing you the difference between them, so you just get a clear idea between the two, which one will help your intuition to come through and which one isn't really going to help you to do that. So the first example that I have is calmness versus anxiety, basically being present and settled versus inner chaos. Intuition feels like calm certainty, whereas your conditioning, your fear, things like this feel like anxiety and just a sense of being unsettled. Sense of not being grounded in the moment. You're tense. Your intuition can't really come through very clearly when your being is like physiologically tense. You're emotionally resisting what's happening. You're mentally resisting what's happening, believing this shouldn't be happening. It comes through very easily when you let go of beliefs, when you let go of mental resistance, thoughts that fight the present experience. It comes through very easily when you are actually feeling into your body, when you're actually grounded in your body. It comes through very easily when you're not tense in your body. You let go of tension. All these are various forms of resistance. Intuition comes through when resistance is very low. When resistance is high, it's very hard for it to get through, if it even does. Next is clarity versus confusion. Intuition is very unexplainable and instinctual, right? It's just a sense of knowing. The key word there is a sense, versus doubt, right? That's the opposite side of the spectrum. So intuition provides very clear guidance, whereas fear creates confusion and doubt. And very often we actually gaslight our own intuition. This is the case for a lot of people, but once you really hone in on it enough, it's very hard. You can't really gaslight your intuition anymore, because to go against your intuition will actually start to create suffering in your life. You're not really on the right path, so to speak. You're not on your aligned path, is really how to say it. Next is steadiness versus a sense of having a rapid heartbeat in yourself, an overall sense of instability. So intuition feels steady and grounded, while fear and your conditioning can often result in like a rapid heartbeat, a sense of just disconnect from yourself, a felt sense of disconnect from yourself. Intuition comes from a felt sense of connection. Like I said, you're in your body. You're actually feeling your sensations. You're not repressing yourself. Next is peace versus tension. Like I've been saying, a relaxed and open body is extremely important for this one versus a tense one. Intuition brings a sense of peace as well, right? Contrasting with the tension and the stress from fear, from a lot of, the conditioning that we're programmed with. Moving on is confidence versus doubt. Intuition comes with a quiet confidence, unlike the overwhelming doubt that fear brings. Right? Oops. So this is a pretty important point, is that intuition is just a sense of like clear certainty and pure confidence. Like when the message comes through, it's very hard to actually really go against your intuition when you're very aware of it. It's near impossible. And it's very easy to get confused between the two because, like I'm giving you right now, these are like massive spectrums. I'm giving you one side of one spectrum and like the polar opposite end of the spectrum, and we're not usually on absolute either end. We're usually somewhere kind of in between. And by getting an idea of these spectrums, I'm giving you the direction to move in so that you can actually access your intuition. Next is gentle persistence versus urgency. Intuition will call you again and again and again. And it'll do this in a very persistent way, yet very gentle. It's not going to force you to do anything, but to not listen to it is actually going to create suffering in your life. And that pain and suffering is literally there to tell you, wake the fuck up. You're on the wrong path. But it's not going to force you to do anything. Right? So intuition is persistent yet gentle, while fear feels urgent and pressing. Right? So much stuff in our society, it's got to be done now. It's very urgent, right now. Right? That's not intuition. That's mental emotional disease. Right? Intuition just feels like it's flowing out of you in a very organic and instinctual way, a very natural way. It doesn't feel rushed, forced, urgent. It feels calm, centered, grounded, like you're open, not tense, you're present, you're connected to yourself. Speaking of being grounded, groundedness versus restlessness, presence and basically a sense of being mindful versus inner chaos and anxiety. So intuition maintains a sense of groundedness, unlike the restlessness from fear. Right, this is why I talk about meditation so much in my videos. I personally don't believe there's any real deep harnessing of intuition without meditation and psychological healing and like a very sincere effort for these things. Right? You need some like Buddhist style mindfulness, basically, a way to actually get into your own body, right? Like Eastern and even a lot of Middle Eastern spirituality talks about, right? Awakening, right? Self-inquiry, deconstructing the ego, while also integrating yourself, integrating the ego, healing the fragmented parts of your own being. So it's kind of like this paradox. Right? You really need both of that sort of Eastern spirituality and Western psychology sort of wisdom. You need it both, and you need to actually live by it, not as like a side thing you do on Saturday nights with the homies, but like it kind of takes you over. It takes over your life. Like if you really want to develop it, it becomes your identity. It becomes who you really are as a human. Not so much who you really are. Who you really are is something else. Moving on is neutral observance versus emotional reaction. Basically witnessing and observing versus judging and reacting. Intuition allows for neutral observation, while fear and your conditioning triggers strong emotional reactions. Your intuition is not a judgment that you make. It's not an emotional reaction. Your intuition is based off of observation of direct experience. Right? It's something that comes through in a very aligned, organic, spontaneous, natural way. And you just know. It's self-evident once you receive it. It's like you can't really gaslight yourself out of it. You can, but it's like your whole body will start to tense. It doesn't actually work. Next is inner knowing versus overthinking. Intuition is basically an unexplainable sense of knowing, whereas overthinking is, like we all are very aware of, is overthinking. Being hyper concerned with the flux and flow of thought and allowing it to kind of cloud your mind, because thought doesn't really lead to actual clarity. Awareness is what leads to actual clarity. Thought in many ways is kind of just like, let's say we have a lake and the water is very sort of calm on top. Thoughts in a sense are like the ripples. They kind of disturb the peace in many ways. When you're really identified with them, when you're really hooked on them, at least. See, the endless stream of thought is not clarity. It's actually just mind identification, which in a lot of Zen teachers refer to it as a form of mental illness, actually, and I definitely agree with them. It's just the case. It is not comfortable. So inner knowing versus overthinking. That's the point. So consistency versus fluctuating feelings is the next one. Intuition remains consistent over time, whereas fear, conditioning, things like this is just it fluctuates a lot. It's not as stable as intuition. So I want to give you some practices that will actually help you to harness your intuition and to really get in touch with yourself and the present experience. The first one is, like I said, mindfulness meditation. Body scanning is really important. You actually need to get into your body, feel your sensations, give it your full attention, learn to get more grounded in your body. It's called embodiment. Without this, you're not really going to really develop your intuition. Next is journaling. Also very good. Breath work, grounding techniques, walk outside into nature, put your bare feet in the grass, sit in some grass. Right? Spending a lot of time in nature is really good. There's a harmonizing effect on your mind that nature has. Being in a clean physical space is also really important. Your environment is going to impact you, right? If you have order in your environment, it's easier to have order in your mind. Cleaning up your environment helps to clean up your mind. It, again, has an organizing and harmonizing effect on the mind. That's why a lot of Zen monasteries, Zen temples, a lot of Buddhist temples, they're very clean. You don't walk inside there with your shoes on, right? Why do they do that? It's because some of those guys are pretty awake, right? Of course, nutrition as well. You can't really listen to your intuition when you're eating Burger King for breakfast, McDonald's for lunch, and then, I don't know, breadsticks for dinner. You're just not. So eating for nutrition, right? Eating very natural foods that don't have a lot of suffering attached to them is really important. So plants that were grown in a very healthy way are very good. Eat your fruits and vegetables. Drinking a lot of water. Smoothies, celery juice, things like this. Not processed foods, right? Not a lot of caffeine. You want things that are going to keep your nervous system settled and not overwhelmed. You want to keep yourself in a regulated state, not an unregulated state. This will just make it far easier for your intuition to come through. That's it for this video. I'm offering one-to-one coaching. You can apply for a free call. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.